Chris Coons of Delaware joins us now. He serves on the Judiciary and Foreign Relations Committee. I feel as though these cases are in the Venn diagram of your committee because they deal with both the judiciary and they deal with our entanglements with foreign countries. Talk to me about the way that these rulings allow the president and Stephen Miller to reshape our national identity and this country.
Alicia, it is so hard to process what the Supreme Court has just done, which is to strengthen the president's hand in making deportation decisions, in expelling from the United States people who came here under a long existing bipartisan program that says when certain countries are countries of violence and oppression, where they have natural disasters, we will welcome in folks from that country. In Delaware, we have a significant Haitian community that's been working in southern Delaware for years, that have put down roots, that have contributed to our community, but they're here because of this temporary protected status program. The president will now use this Supreme Court decision to expel them from the United States. This is going to upend communities and families all over our country, but it's just part of his broader, frankly, cruel program of attempting mass deportations across our country, and the Supreme Court just handed him another tool to accomplish that goal.
All right, let's talk about your Republican colleagues in the U.S. Senate, because yesterday they have this lunch with the president. Apparently they all yell at one another and air all of their grievances, and then somehow two of them change their votes on the Iran war powers resolution. I have never seen a profile in courage collapse in 24 hours. Do you have a sense of what happened in that meeting? Have you spoken with Senator Cassidy about his thinking on this?
Yes, I've spoken to Senator Cassidy and a number of others, and I think the reporting is generally accurate that this was a contentious meeting. I'll remind you what happened right before that meeting. We have a broad bipartisan bill on housing that President Trump was coming to sign. The whole signing ceremony was set up. That bill passed the Senate with 85 votes, and it is a generational bill to deal with a fundamental issue of affordability that impacts every community. In Delaware, I hear complaints all the time. The rent's too damn high. We can't afford to buy a home. And this bill, which took a long time to put together and was ready to go for enactment by the president, at the last minute, he said, nope, I'm not going to sign that unless the Senate adopts the SAVE Act, which would change election law in this country and give him more power to influence the outcome of elections. The Republicans have stood up to him in the Senate and said, no, we're not going to pass the SAVE Act. And so in a fit of pique, a temper tantrum, the president said that I'm not signing the housing bill. For any senator up for re-election, being able to go home and say, we did something, we passed a bill to deal with the cost of housing, was important. And this was the president saying, the Senate, the House, they're not important. We don't need to address affordability. You need to pass my bill. And so, yes, they had a heated exchange. Senator Cassidy recently lost the primary for his own re-election because President Trump endorsed his primary opponent, because he wasn't 100% loyal to Trump. Look, the folks like Senator Cornyn and Senator Cassidy, who've just lost primaries, are 95% loyal to Trump. And so that demonstration where two of them came out and switched their votes on the war powers resolution is just a reminder that President Trump's grip on the Republican Party remains tight, and his determination to extend his power is being facilitated by the Supreme Court majority that Trump put into place. This is a pretty tough day for those of us who believe in the Constitution and in the independent branches of the judiciary and the Congress.
You know, there are so many temper tantrums and so little time that it would be easy to lose track of the fact that the president's willingness to take hostage this bipartisan piece of legislation on housing follows him blowing up his own DNI nominee in the interest of trying to strong-arm Senate Republicans into passing the Save America Act, which is fundamentally a voter suppression bill. Do you have a sense of where this goes next? Is there another lever he hopes to pull? Are Senate Republicans going to stand strong against the Save America Act?
There are not 50 votes in the Republican caucus to pass the SAVE Act. And I have encouraged and thanked colleagues who continue to stand against this outrageous voter suppression measure. But I'll remind you, you just referenced it, what President Trump is playing with. The director of national intelligence, the acting director, is now a completely unqualified political hack with zero experience in national security. Someone who didn't even have an intelligence clearance and is now firing people at the Director of National Intelligence Office by the dozens on a political payback mission. This guy, Bill Pulte, his only previous experience that brought him to Trump's attention was his willingness as the head of the mortgage agencies to use private information about people's mortgages to try and go after President Trump's perceived political opponents and to gin up prosecutions against them that failed. That's not the guy you want in charge of our national intelligence agencies. And we were on track to pass a renewal of one of the most important spy authorities that allows the American intelligence community to intercept communications of foreign nationals. That's now on hold, putting our country more at risk and further politicizing some of our key intelligence capabilities simply because President Trump keeps trying to steamroll the Senate majority.
Senator Chris Coons, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Alicia.